Samsung launches a lot of smartphones every year, and in doing so, they do bring some overpriced and underpowering smartphones. The Galaxy M11 that we reviewed a while back was one of such examples, and since then, I have been using the Galaxy A21s alongside my favorite budget smartphone at the moment, the Galaxy M21. The A21s is slightly costlier than the Galaxy M21 for the same memory configuration. So, which one should you pick? Let's find out now. So the first thing to like about the Galaxy A21s is its design. Just look at it. It is absolutely stunning, all thanks to its glossy and reflective rear panel. It is available in a couple of color options like black, white, red, and as you can see, I have the blue one. Because of its curved body, the phone also has an excellent grip with a little bit of heft too, though I would have preferred something lighter. Surprisingly, the Galaxy A21s is slightly heavier than the Galaxy M21, which we all know has a much bigger 6000 mAh battery. As expected, Samsung has gone for an all-out plastic body, and as expected, the glossy finish definitely aids to some smudges and fingerprints sticking to the back of the phone. Yet, I am happy to report that it's not what you would call a fingerprint magnet. Both the power and volume rockers reside on the right side, while a SIM tray sits on the left side of the phone. The buttons click just fine and are positioned well enough to be at reach. You can also find a 3.5mm headphone jack, a Type-C port, and a single speaker grill at the bottom. The audio output from the speaker is okay, but only at low to medium volumes. Cranking up the loudness will result to lossy and distorted audio. But the good news is that it supports Dolby Atmos via a headphone jack or wireless earbuds. Hence, the output is considerably better than the speakers. Once again, getting to the back of the phone, it borrows the L-shaped camera module from other phones like the Galaxy M31 with a slight but inconsiderable bump. Adjacent to the cameras is a traditional fingerprint sensor with convenient placement, and it is fast and accurate most of the time. Overall, the Galaxy A21s has an outstanding design for an affordable price, although the company could have worked on the weight a little bit. Moving on, the display is usually where Samsung phones shine the brightest. But sadly, it's not the case here. It's bad, so bad. Even the trendier punch hole cutout for the front-facing camera is not able to save the grace for the phone's display quality. I mean, have a peek for yourself. This undersaturated panel has a terrible color reproduction, and you could instantly recognize the mediocrity. Here, take the app icons for instance. No way this is how they're supposed to look. Getting to the nitty-gritty details, the Galaxy A21s has a 6.5-inch PLS TFT LCD panel with an HD+ resolution and a 20:9 aspect ratio. So yeah, the sharpness is not quite there, and I've already talked about the inferior colors. The punch hole on the left corner does add to the modernness of the phone and all, but it is still a victim to mild screen bleed around the outline of the cutout. Brightness is okay for indoor situations, although the A21s will make you work in terms of visibility when you're directly under the sun. Talking about the dark mode, I must admit that it is well implemented, even though it lacks the always-on display feature. All in all, the Galaxy A21s has a less than average display with subpar colors and average sharpness. And this is kind of a really weird decision from Samsung, considering that the much cheaper Galaxy M21 has a full HD Super AMOLED panel. Hence, this single-handedly is one of the reasons not to buy the Galaxy A21s. Camera-wise, the Galaxy A21s has a quad lens system at the back with a 48-megapixel primary sensor, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide-angle lens, a 2-megapixel macro lens, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. As usual, the 2-megapixel macro lens is pretty much useless as shots come out void of any detail, and you will need to put in a lot of work for a mediocre shot. The other three lenses are actually very good. And comparing it with the M21, it's almost identical except for the minute difference in color tone. Both of these phones are capable of capturing good daylight images with good colors, contrast, and dynamic range. Both phones are also on par when it comes to details and sharpness. Wide-angle photos share a similar story. That is, it's identical to the M21's images. In daytimes, you will get good colors, sufficient dynamic range, and wide field of view. Overall, the Galaxy A21s's wide-angle images are better than your typical budget phones like the Realme 6i or the Redmi Note 9. In terms of portraits too, it's good for the price with good subject focus, decent bokeh, and background colors. It is almost identical to that of the M21's portraits, as you can see in this image here. Selfie-wise, you get a 13-megapixel sensor whose images look almost as good as the selfies from the 20-megapixel sensor of the Galaxy M21. There is just a slight difference in skin color, otherwise images from both the devices look almost identical. The portrait selfies share the same fate where both have good colors but average edge detection. Nighttime images on the A21s widely vary between the normal and wide-angle mode, with the latter resulting in much warmer shots. Details are not quite there either. And the most disappointing part is you don't get a night mode here. Finally, videos are maxed out to FHD resolution at 30 fps on both front and rear cameras of the A21s, both of which lack any sort of stabilization. Recordings from the back camera are good enough for regular usage as it has good color reproduction and a little wide field of view. On the contrary, selfie videos are riddled with overexposure and a terrible dynamic range. But overall, I really like the cameras on the Galaxy A21s. It's almost identical to the Galaxy M21 and it's better than, say, its competitors like the Redmi Note 9 or the Realme 6i. For performance, you get the new Exynos 850 chipset manufactured under a much efficient 8nm process node and therefore is very energy friendly. Having said that, the Exynos 850 has all its 8 cores with Cortex A55 architecture. This means that you don't get high-performance Cortex A75 or A76 cores like how you would get on other mid-range chipsets like the Helio G90T or the Snapdragon 720G. Because of that, the performance of the Galaxy A21s is below an acceptable level. My review unit has a 464GB configuration and my experience with the phone was not so good as you can imagine. I'm sure memory management could get a little better with the 6GB RAM variant, but I can guarantee that paying more for memory is not going to result in a swifter and faster workflow on the Galaxy A21s. The Exynos 850 can handle lightweight apps and multitasking between them pretty well. But if they are joined by some other heavy apps or games, then the equation becomes entirely different. Memory management is not great and apps that are not running in the background takes some time to open. Moreover, software-wise, it runs on the One UI core instead of the standard One UI and thus is void of certain features like a dedicated night mode on the camera, secure folder, etc. But it did not really bother me as the core experience was pretty much what I've come to look for from Samsung's One UI. Likewise, the gaming performance on the Galaxy A21s was also pretty average with its Mali G52 GPU. Popular titles like PUBG and Call of Duty are playable, but there is a catch with each of them. PUBG had noticeable lags and stutters under high graphics and frame rates, whereas smooth graphics and ultra frame rates resulted in a better performance. Similarly, I witnessed smooth gameplay in Call of Duty under medium graphics and high frame rates. Besides these, other undemanding games like Injustice 2, Mobile Legends are well within the playable boundary too. The battery here is a solid A. The 5000 mAh cell has excellent endurance as you know it comes with an energy-efficient 8nm chipset and a comparatively less power-hungry PLS TFT screen. The phone easily lasted me 2 days, which consisted of hours of web browsing, YouTube binging, and a little bit of gaming now and then. Still, charging is not so fast with its 15-watt fast charger as it takes 2.5 hours to fully charge the phone from nil to full. In conclusion, I think the Galaxy A21s is a strictly average smartphone for the price. Featuring an HD+ TFT panel, a processor with only power-efficient CPU cores, a higher price tag, etc. speaks volumes. The only things that are in favor of the A21s are its cameras, its design, and its battery endurance. But with subpar display and performance, the end user experience is just not worth the price. So we strongly recommend you go for the Galaxy M21 instead, that comes with an AMOLED panel, a slightly better Exynos 9611 processor, and better cameras at more or less the same price. So that was all for our full review of the Galaxy A21s. What do you think about this device? Is it worth the price? Do let us know in the comments below. Till then, I'm Pratima Adhikari and I'll see you in the next one.